Right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the today's update, the sixth in the series, HS2 and its impact on the Chilterns AOMB. I'd just like to thank James Cadle and the Chess Valley U3A for hosting today's meeting. We really very much appreciate it. I'd like to start with a much revised construction timetable. Phase 1 will run from London to Birmingham and was originally due to be completed in 2026. Phase 2A will run from West Midlands and then on to Crewe, and Phase 2B extends the route to Manchester and Leeds, and these were originally due to be completed in 2033. In 2019, HS2 confirmed that the project would be delayed by up to 7 years. Phase 1 would now be completed sometime between 2028 and 2033. Phase 2A sometime between 2030, 2034. And Phase 2B, the western leg from Crewe to Manchester, 2035 to 2041. And the eastern leg to Leeds was cancelled in 2021. In 2020, it was announced that initial services would start in 2029 at the earliest, and that they would start from Old Oak Common in West London, not Euston. Services wouldn't start from Euston until at least 2031 and possibly 10 years later than first stated. The planned initial 14 trains an hour in peak times would not be possible until services start and finish at Euston. Old Oak Common can only handle 6 trains an hour. In March this year, in an attempt to cut the spiralling costs, it was announced that Phase 2A, the Birmingham to Crewe leg, and Phase 2B on to Manchester would be delayed by up to 2 years, as would Euston Station. Transport Minister Hugh Merriman stated that the government remain committed to delivering HS2 services to Euston, but that it will take time to ensure an affordable and deliverable station design. They've already had 8 years, which means delivering Euston alongside Phase 2B to Manchester, i.e. now at least 15 years late. The cost of the new station has now risen to an estimated £4.8 billion, almost double its estimate just 3 years ago. And this was for the cut price rethink devised when the first design was deemed too elaborate and expensive. The Department for Transport revealed that significant elements of the original design work on Euston Station could no longer be used. As a result, HS2 Limited had to discard large parts of the original design on which it had already spent some £105 million. Just yesterday, the Public Accounts Committee accused the government of setting unrealistic budgets and failing to learn from other troubled rail schemes. The report said that despite the Department for Transport planning the station for 8 years, it still did not know what it was trying to achieve. It also criticised pausing construction without knowing how much this would cost or assessing the impacts on the supply chain. Dame Meg Hillier, chairman of the committee, described the project as floundering and accused the government of forging ahead over-optimistically and in an unclear direction. She added the pause, ostensibly to save money, is not cost-free. Mothballing and possible compensation for businesses which have lost work will all need to be added to the HS2 tally. The government must now be clear what it's trying to achieve with this new station and how it will benefit the public. HS2 is currently costing £600 million a month. HS2 will approach the Chilterns via the 2-mile-long Colne Valley Viaduct across the Colne Valley Regional Park near Denham. This will be by some way the longest viaduct in the UK. It will cross a number of lakes, the Grand Union Canal, the River Colne, as well as Moor Hall Road, and then the A412 North Orbital Road. A haul road has been constructed along the length of the viaduct on a series of jetties across 4 lakes. This is looking back across the first lake towards the south end of the viaduct, showing the construction of the giant viaduct piers. Now, looking north across the Grand Union Canal, showing the piers being constructed across Savay Lake. Now, this is the first road it will cross, looking north from Moor Hall Road, where it's actually crossing Corder Lake. And the road here will soon be closed for a month to allow construction of the viaduct across the road. The first of 11 enormous V-shaped piers have been completed across the lake. The piers, each weighing 1,800 tons, will support a row of elegant arches inspired by the flight of a stone skimming over the surface of a water. Cofferdams were used to hold back the water while the 60-metre deep foundations were built into the bed of the lake. This is the launching girder, and it's currently working its way across the River Colne. And this is the completed section across the North Orbital Road at West Hyde between Denham and Maple Cross. Just a reminder that all the viaduct sections are made on site. The factory that is used to make them is actually bigger than the Albert Hall. They are currently making 12 a week, and 1,000 will be needed altogether. And as the viaduct is on an elongated curve, every segment will be slightly different shape, depending on where it fits into the viaduct. The route leaves the viaduct on the West Hyde embankment at the northern end. It then enters the Tilehouse Lane cutting. The spoil removed from the Chiltern Tunnel and all of tunnel ventilation shafts is being used for local landscaping here. 127 hectares of new chalk grassland, woodland and wetland habitats is being created. They intend planting 65,000 trees and 3.5 kilometres of new hedgerows. It's actually called the Colne Valley Western Slopes, and this is an artist's impression of what it might look like. This is the actual tunnel portal, the entrance to the tunnels. It shows the close proximity of the M25, which you can see running across the top of the picture. This is west of junction 17. The tunnel boring machines, the TBM, started work here in May 2021. This is an HS2 picture showing a section of the completed tunnel. The 1 metre wide walkway shown will be permanent. Crosses show the area we'll be looking at now from the M25 across the central Chilterns all the way to Wendover. This shows the 4 tunnel ventilation shafts across the Chilterns. There will also be an intervention shaft near the North Tunnel portal at South Heath. The A413 is the road that runs past the Chalfonts and Amersham and then on to Great Missenden and Wendover. This is the first of the shafts, the Chalfont St Peter vent shaft. And you can see alongside the shaft itself the basement that will house the ventilation fans that's been constructed. The fans are now underground, so that's what the basement is for. Construction of all of the shafts themselves is now complete, and this is a compilation of the ongoing work at all of the vent shafts. So this is a basement which will house the fans, which I just mentioned. That they were all made using what they call secant piling, where the walls are constructed using interlocking piles, and the material is then removed, creating the basement. The top of the shaft is then revealed. And then this is then removed down to the basement level. The final sections are actually removed using a method known as hydrodemolition. This uses what is in effect a very large jet washer, which has a pressure of 3,000 bars. It can actually cut through concrete and even the steel reinforcement. And just to give you an idea, the water leaves the end of it at 1,500 miles an hour. Great care is taken installing a waterproof membrane over the whole area. A base slab is then laid and the walls lined. Internal work structures within the shafts are then added and tunnel connections installed at the base. Here, reinforcement is being put in place, ready for the shaft lining. And this is the basement level of the shaft. Chalfont St Peter is the deepest of the shafts at over 66 meters. Internal work structures within the shaft and the tunnel connections are now being installed, and the tunnels themselves are 55 meters below ground level. And to put this into perspective, Nelson's column would fit in the shaft above the tunnels. The lift descends 12 levels before reaching the tunnels. And here they are cutting through from the vent shaft into the upline tunnel. The TBMs arrived here in March last year. And you can just see beyond the chap himself, that is actually into the tunnel. A 400-metre long temporary haul road links the site directly to the A413. All the construction sites have approved access routes which HGVs must use. The one for this site is via the A413 to the A40 at Gerrards Cross and then to the M40. Temporary traffic lights control traffic on the A413. The haul road will be in operation until the shaft is completed early in 2025. It will then be removed and the land restored to its former use. Chalfont St Giles vent shaft is situated at the top of Bottom House Farm Lane. Access to the shaft is via a half-mile long temporary haul road. You can see the top of the shaft and the basement alongside, and Bottom House Farm Lane continues in its original form beyond the vent shaft. The TBMs reached here last September. And the shaft depth here is 34 meters, so quite a lot shallower than Chalfont St Peter's. The tunnels are 26 meters below ground. That's looking down to the bottom of the shaft. And the locals, as you can see here, have got used to the work going on. You can see clearly the temporary haul road going back to the A413 at the top of the picture, and just beyond there is Harewood Downs Golf Club, so it gives you an idea of where it is. This will be removed once construction of the vent shaft is complete. All the HGVs have to turn right when leaving the haul road and use the same access route as for the Chalfont St Peter shaft. Bottomhouse Farm Lane will be reinstated, but it has not been decided just how this will be done, as the original approach to the junction was too steep. The Amersham vent shaft is situated in Wilden Lane, west of Amersham Hospital. The A404 goes to High Wycombe, and the 413 turns right towards Great Missenden. This is looking east, and you can see the A404 joining the 413 at the roundabout on the left-hand corner. For all the sites between Amersham and Stoke Mandeville, the access route is the A413, the A355 up to Gore Hill to Beaconsfield, and then to the M40. The TBMs reached here in the middle of February. It's strange to think that one of them was parked here deep below the surface, receiving maintenance before moving on when this picture was taken. Here you can see the top of the shaft, and this is slap bang and up to date because I took the picture yesterday. Shaft depth here is 43 metres, and the tunnels are 30 metres below the ground. All the vehicles have their wheels washed before leaving all of the sites, and there is continuous dust suppression in dry weather. As with most sites, air quality and noise levels are constantly monitored. Beyond Amersham, the tunnel passes between the 18th century Shardlow's House and Shardlow's Lake. During the early hours of Saturday, the 13th of May, a sinkhole opened up about 100 metres south of the lake. The hole was approximately 6 metres in diameter, 5 metres deep, and 32 metres above the HS2 tunnel being drilled by one of the TBMs. And this is an explanation of exactly what happened. Earlier in the week, the TBM, named Cecilia, digging the down tunnel, had been stopped for routine maintenance. On restarting, it ran through a dissolution feature, a void in the chalk, which contained large loose lumps of flint. These damaged the flexible pipework between the cutter head and the spoiled pipeline, which required another stop for repairs. The disturbance caused the unstable ground above the tunnel to fail and collapse, and this was propagated back to the surface, creating the sinkhole. Backfilling works have not yet begun, nor has a thorough plan been agreed. This is actually on private Grade 2 listed land, and discussions with the landowner continue. A line the contractors intend to excavate below the bottom of the hole until competent ground is reached before backfilling begins. The TBMs then passed under the Misbourne for the second time. There were no problems with the first crossing at Chalfont St Giles, and I'm very relieved to say there were no problems with the second crossing either. Much to the relief of many people, not least, I'm sure, the tunnelling engineers. The fourth vent shaft is alongside the A413 in Little Missenden. And this is looking west across the 413 and the Little Missenden shaft, and you can see the close proximity of the River Misbourne running across the top of the picture. The shaft depth here is 31 metres, and the tunnels will be 24 metres below the ground. The TBMs reached here last month and are now on their way up the hill towards South Heath. Access to the site here is via a temporary right-hand turn across the dual carriageway. This saves a five-mile round trip to the Frith Hill roundabout at Great Missenden. This will be removed once construction is complete. And this is another picture taken yesterday. At the moment, there are daily lane closures to allow careful monitoring checks for possible subsidence. The Chesham Road shaft is an intervention shaft only. It won't have any fans, so it will not have a basement. Because the shaft is above the water table, a different form of construction called the caisson method was used for this shaft. Sections of the caisson are constructed above ground and then sunk to the required level by excavating material from within the caisson. Shaft depth here is 46 metres and the tunnels will be 33 metres below the ground. The TBMs are due to arrive in October or November this year. The Chiltern Tunnel North Portal is just over a kilometre away, and Sibley's Coppice is the piece of ancient woodland between the two. And this picture gives you an idea of just how close it is to the portal. Here we're looking north towards the portal and the South Heath cutting beyond. Frith Hill is at the bottom of the picture. And this is looking west across the tunnel portal towards Great Missenden. Access to this next section of the route is via the temporary Hall Road from the Link Road roundabout on the A413. Here we're looking north towards the South Heath cutting from the portal west flank wall. Work is also underway here, building an ancillary building to the left of the cutting. And this is more or less the same view taken in May 2019 as ground investigations got underway prior to construction. The overhead power lines were realigned to the west via a new pylon. This shows a permanent access road to the North Portal. And this will allow access to the tunnel portal via a link from Frith Hill, where the Weights and Measures drip gym used to be. And again, that's how it used to be. It's difficult to compare the two views because, of course, the other one is about getting on for 15 metres below the ground. Here we are looking south along the South Heath cutting towards the Chiltern Tunnel North Portal. As this is 15 metres below the ground, it won't be visible from the surrounding area. And here they're assembling the reinforcing bars for the porous portal bases, essentially the eventual track bed. And this will be where the TBMs will exit the tunnel. They are due to reach here in December. They will then be dismantled and scrapped. Trains will eventually leave the tunnel here, travelling at about 200 miles an hour. So these are the tunnel portals and the ancillary building alongside the track. The porous portals provide air pressure and noise relief for trains entering and leaving the tunnel. For trains entering the tunnel, the up line, the portal is 220 metres long, and for those leaving the tunnel, the down line, the portal is 135 metres long. Access to the North Tunnel portal is via a temporary haul road from the Link Road roundabout at Great Missenden. Another haul road has been constructed alongside the route, linking all the construction work as far as Wendover. It means a lot more devastation, but it does remove traffic from local roads. Section of the central reservation between the Frith Hill and the Link Road roundabouts on the A413 has been removed to allow very large loads direct access to the haul road. These loads will initially be sections of the Wendover Dean viaduct. There will be 90 of these loads, each consisting of 30-metre long steel girders coming all the way from France, and delivery is now underway. The route continues in a cutting under a series of bridges. In this section, they are all over bridges, meaning that they cross over the railway. Between Euston and the Chiltern Tunnel North Portal, the design speed progressively increases to a maximum of 200 miles an hour. And the route alignment has been designed to enable speeds of up to 225 miles an hour on the route north of the Chiltern Tunnel. And here we're looking south back towards the tunnel portal, and the first bridge, which will be a footpath over bridge, footpath GMI 12, and this will give the only view of the portal. And this is what it might look like. Looking east towards Potter Row, showing the first two footpath over bridges. And this shows the second of these, GMI 2, where construction is now underway. This is actually called an accommodation overbridge, meaning that it will also be used for farming access. The route then crosses Leather Lane. Offline construction means the bridge will be built to the south of the road, which will then be diverted once construction is complete. 11 large oak trees have been removed so far. An alternative plan for the overbridge involving the loss of fewer trees has been put forward, and this is still being assessed, and we still await developments. Leather Lane is an important bat corridor and provided refuge to at least 7 species of bat, including the endangered barberstall bat. There's also a campaign to save an iconic oak tree, which has been named Ilona, as it stands in the way of a proposed earth bund. And this is looking east across the actual route towards the oak trees awaiting their final fate. Looking north beyond Leather Lane, you can see the Iron Age earthworks of Grim's Ditch. Alas, a large section of that has been destroyed. Nearby, Cottage Farm Overbridge will cross the route. And moving north, the next bridge will be another footpath accommodation overbridge, this one TLE2. And you can see here that piling is now underway. The footpath is closed for the construction period and will eventually be realigned over the bridge. And that's roughly what it looked like. That was the last harvest in this field. The trees that you can see on the left of the skyline is actually Grim's Ditch. The next road bridge is Bowood Lane Overbridge. Here we are looking east from the bridge towards King's Lane. As this is being constructed online, Bowood Lane is closed before being reinstated across the bridge. I can't help thinking autumn 2023 is somewhat optimistic. You can see exactly where the bridge will be. At the bottom of the picture, you can see the two sides of the bridge. And although construction is well underway, there is a limit as to how far this can proceed, as the plans submitted have been rejected by Buckinghamshire Council. Again, we await developments. The public footpath that runs alongside Bowood Lane remains open, and there is a man crossing here, just as well with the large numbers of these dump trucks using the haul road. All other footpaths crossing the route in this section are closed during construction, so this is a vital diversion route for some, including the very popular Chiltern Way. And this is Bowood Lane as it used to be. It's a little used sunken lane, and it was difficult to imagine how it would look once construction of the overbridge got underway. And here we're looking, obviously looking west across the route, taken before any construction got underway. The route continues over Wendover Dean Viaduct, starting just north of Jones Hill Wood. The route is getting close to the A413 here, and the work can be seen from the road. Here you can see both the north and the south abutments and the piers that will support the viaduct. Although Durham Farm has been demolished, one barn remains awaiting asbestos removal. The viaduct will be 450 metres long and consists of 10 spans. The maximum height will be 20 metres, and it is designed for trains to travel at 225 miles an hour. The piers and viaduct sections are to be cast off-site before being transported to the road site by road, as I previously mentioned. The first of the 38 steel beams have completed their 560-mile journey all the way from France, ahead of the start of the deck construction. The beams will be assembled into the first of 5 90-metre-long spans, ready to be pushed out onto the viaduct later this year. Farmers are managing to grow crops here right up to the line. And the viaduct will be clearly seen from the other side, the western side of the Misbourne Valley. North of the viaduct, the route continues into the Rocky Lane cutting, and this shows the very wide swathe of land used, much wider than was first envisaged. A plant maintenance and fuel storage depot is being constructed here. You can see that at the bottom left of the picture. And the whole road has been realigned to the east of the cutting. That's up to above the cutting in the picture. The route then crosses Rocky Lane on its way towards Wendover, This will actually be an underbridge, meaning it will go under the route. And you can also see the EKFB, the contractors here. You can see their satellite compound just to the south of the underbridge. Offline construction means that this busy lane will remain open while a bridge is constructed just to the north of the lane. The lane will then be realigned under the route. Smaldene Viaduct will take the route over the A413. And this is the view now. And as you approach Wendover, the devastation, I think, is really shocking. That's probably one of the most disturbing pictures, I think, along this whole section of route. The viaduct will be 345 meters long, and it will take 2 years to build. It will take the route over the A413, the Chiltern Railway, and also Smaldene Lane. The A413 needs to be realigned eastwards this summer to allow piling between the railway and the A413. The first stage of the work has been rerouting of water and gas mains, which required a weekend closure of the road. This caused chaos on some of the smaller local roads, with motorists unsurprisingly avoiding the sign diversion route, which is via the A40 through High Wycombe, and which is 30 miles long. There are also regular lane closures here, which cause delays on this very busy road. This is an artist's impression of what the viaduct might look like, and you can see where the road will wind round one of the piers. The underside of the viaduct will be just 6 meters above the road and supported by 5 Y-shaped piers. Apparently, it was designed to echo the great railway bridges of the Victorian age. There will be noise barriers along the top of the viaduct. The piers themselves are expected to be completed early in 2025, and the bridge deck will be launched later that year. It's due to be completed in 2026. So this is looking back along the viaduct route from the north abutment, and as you can see, piling is now well underway. A fully enclosed 600-meter long conveyor system has been built to remove the stored spoil from earlier earthworks. It will transport the spoil across the A413, the Chiltern Railway, and Smaldene Lane. It will move an estimated 1.4 million tonnes of materials. And it's expected to save some 400 HGV movements a day over a 3.5-year period. The system is now complete and in use. Well, sort of. The stored spoil is being stored where it comes off the northern end of the conveyor. The problem is that the haul road that will be used to take the spoil northwards is not yet complete, and there is a limit to how much they can be stored at the end of the conveyor. Some of the spoil here is being used to build the Smaldene North embankment, which will take the route on towards the Wendover Tunnel. Smaldene Lane is closed during construction of the viaduct, and this is a temporary bridleway which bypasses the closure. Fortunately, there is another main crossing here with these huge dump trucks crossing regularly. The route continues on an embankment up to 14 metres high alongside the Wendover bypass. Grove Farm Underbridge will take the farm access road under the railway line, and this will actually be the last bridge in the Chilterns. The route then enters the cut and cover Wendover Green Tunnel alongside Backham Lane on the right-hand side of the picture. Backham Lane will be closed for 2 years and a temporary link road will connect through to Ellsborough Road. And this is where it will eventually join Ellsborough Road. The tunnel will be 3/4 of a mile long, and it will be built by excavating a cutting in the ground, forming a tunnel box from precast segments and then covering it over with landscaping. Designed as a double arch, the tunnel will have 2 separate halves for southbound and northbound trains. 5 different concrete precast segments will be slotted together to achieve the double arch. Each one will be steel reinforced, with the largest weighing up to 43 tonnes. Altogether, over 2,500 segments will be used. The segments are being made in Ilkeston, Derbyshire, and transported all the way by road. The tunnel itself will have specially designed porous portals on both ends to reduce the noise of the trains as they exit. There are serious concerns still to be resolved that construction would interfere with the flow of water into the Wendover arm of the Grand Union Canal and Western Turville Reservoir Nature Reserve, diverting it towards Stoke Mandeville and thus increasing the flood risk there. Ellsborough Road will be diverted behind the remaining houses during construction and then reinstated along its original alignment. 7 public rights of way are affected and most are now closed until construction is complete. The ancient Ridgeway will be diverted along the temporary road before being realigned over the tunnel. And you can see a bridge in the middle of the picture. And this will take the diversion over the actual tunnel route. The road is due to open in September after the utility works to divert underground services over the bridge itself. It rejoins the original road alongside the bridge over the A413. And the diversion actually starts just to the west of Wendover. These are the 6 houses in Ellsborough Road that have been demolished to make way for the tunnel. They've gone and you can just see the bridge through the gap. You can see the bridge beyond. Much of the Wendover Memorial woodland to the south of Ellsborough Road has been lost here. And work is soon to start to cut the tunnel through here, removing the vegetation soon and then cutting the tunnel through. And this is looking back from the other side towards Ellsborough Road through the gap where the houses have been demolished. Beyond the tunnel portal, the road continues in the Wendover North cutting. Excavation has been limited by the Environment Agency to the removal of the topsoil until plans for handling the handling of interference to the Coombe Hill aquifer have been approved. despite being identified as a serious issue and referred to HS2 as far back as 2013, the inability to excavate the Hall Road to start moving spoil to Stoke Mandeville must now be a serious risk to the overall HS2 project timescales. And that's again, that's the more or less the same view as it was. Little did we know then just what treasures would be uncovered here by the archaeological excavations prior to construction. This is the Wendover North cutting. So they come out of the tunnel portal on the right of the picture, then enter the Wendover North cutting. And the route then leaves the Chilterns, passing under Nashley Road at the end of the Wendover bypass. So you can see Nashley Road is actually stopped up in the middle of the picture. It's now been diverted to allow for the construction of the Nashley Road overbridge. So you can see there the diversion in the middle of the picture, the stopped up road, and then Nashley Lane to the right of the picture. And this is the bridge that will take the road over the route, temporary bridge. And the Hall Road continues towards Stoke Mandeville and eventually take the spoil northwards for use further up the route. An unexpected problem has arisen here. In the past, motorists wishing to continue along the A413 towards Aylesbury would take the second exit at the Nashley Road roundabout. Alas, that is now the realigned Nashley Lane, a no-through road with an abrupt junction. There have been 2 crashes there so far, although it transpired that one involved a driver over the drink limit and the other was a stolen car, and the driver rapidly removed himself from the scene. Just one of the hazards of building a high-speed railway. The houses are now protected by a barrier while they decide what remedial measures can be taken. The approved access route for all of the sites, as I said, is back towards Amersham. This is all the sites as far as Stoke Mandeville, round the 413, and then all up the 355 to Beaconsfield. These are the forecast daily HGV numbers travelling along the A413, Amersham Bypass and Gore Hill. And this is in May, figures for May, which is the last month I have figures for. And as you see, add them all up, and the total was 344. 344 HGV vehicles per day. And remember, each figure relates to the number in each direction. I will finish here, as I have not had time to process the pictures of the route across the Vale of Aylesbury, and maybe we can cover that in section at the next update. You can see most of the pictures I've used by visiting the HS2 photo diary on the Chiltern Society website, and this shows the impact at a number of locations across the Chilterns and is constantly updated. There are also various links to videos, including a virtual fly-through along the route from Denham all the way to Calvert beyond Aylesbury. Once again, I'm so grateful for Andy Cordiner for making the aerial pictures possible. And I have to say the contractors for their cooperation and for allowing me access to so many of the sites. The next update, the 7th, will be on January the 20th, 2024.